And after doing this for 11 years, I finally got featured on my first major publication on Business Insider with an article titled, "A 32-year-old dancer reached a $4 million net worth thanks to 5 strategic money decisions." In this video, I'm going to share 3 financial tips that helped me become a millionaire before I turned 30. Now today I'm 32 and I'm actually a multi-millionaire using these same steps, and I cannot wait to share them with you today. 12 years ago, a senior in college with nothing but the dreams to one day be where I'm at today. It was not a romantic journey. It was a struggle, especially for the first couple years, and my first job at a college paid $27,000 a year working at a call center. So I want to talk about this article, what was featured in my interview, and what were some of the things that were basically left out. This article kicks off by saying Adrian Brambila became a self-made multi-millionaire by the age of 32 after starting off broke. But one thing I want to make clear is the words self-made, because when I think of the net worth that I built, I didn't inherit anything, but I was given a massive advantage, which I'll always want to give credit to. I'm super bummed that it didn't come out in the article, but my parents, my dad who immigrated from Mexico, my mom who was raised in poverty, both of them came from nothing. They worked their asses off to provide an amazing childhood for myself, for my sister, and an amazing house, in a household which we always had dinner together. They taught me all about financing and working hard, and pretty much that in this world nothing is ever going to be given to you. You have to work for it. And more than that, they did something that I think gave me a massive head start across pretty much a lot of my peers and a lot of people that I know, is that they saved enough money so that my sister and I could actually go to college and walk away debt-free. Now, unfortunately, I talked about that in the interview, but it didn't show up on this article, and I don't want to make it seem that I am truly self-made, because I believe no one really is. We all get, some people get head starts, some people are born rich. I wasn't, but I was given that massive advantage, and I always make sure I try to give my parents credit, because without them, I wouldn't have had the ability to save as much money as I did on my first job. $27K a year plus a couple side hustles teaching dance. I saved 30% of my income my very first year because I didn't have student loans to pay. Also, I think just having debt when you graduate basically creates a mental block because you're thinking about debt. You can't do things because you have debt. You have to pay for it. My mind was clear from the beginning, which let me explore these side hustles that I started, which became multi-million-dollar businesses. So I have to give credit to my parents, and I love and respect them. They taught me so much, and I know that some people aren't fortunate enough to even have both parents or a parent at home, and they were pretty much my biggest inspirations, leaders, and role models for me starting out. Getting a little sensitive here. Now, the second bullet point, he avoided bad debt, spent wisely, built an emergency fund, and invested in a diverse portfolio. This is like fact. And I truly believe in this. I think credit cards specifically, I mentioned this in the article, it is the American dream killer. I think too many people are getting credit cards when they have no sense of how to manage money or even how to use a credit card. It's frustrating, but I don't blame these people, because without proper financial education, how are you supposed to know what to do? My parents taught me this, so that's the only reason why I did not screw up my whole life, is because they told me, when you get a credit card, make sure you pay it off in full every single month, or else it can hurt your credit score, and that's going to prevent you from doing a lot of things. Life is more expensive when you do not pay off your credit card in time. And the other thing they told me to do is basically, when you get a credit card, if you have let's say your credit limit is $1,000, that does not mean that your bank account just grew by $1,000. Your bank account's the same. You just have this ability to pay later, and that's the only way you should use a credit card. To me, this seems like common sense, like logical, like I can't understand people who don't do it. But then again, my parents actually showed this to me, taught this to me. And if you're someone who did not ever hear this lesson, I hope that I can pass along this to you, or if you are ever talking about credit cards with someone, pass that along to them. One crazy story, I kid you not, I posted this exact lesson on my LinkedIn saying you should always pay off your credit card in full. And someone, I don't know who this was, but someone with a prestigious job title, I think like a marketing director, commented, and they said, actually, Adrian, you should always leave just a little bit of a balance on your monthly statement, and that helps your credit score. It's like, what the I told him, I was like, dude, like, in a respectful way, like, I don't know where you got that from, but that is wrong. That is actually terrible advice. And then unfortunately the trolls hopped in and they kind of ate him alive. But it just goes to show, it doesn't matter your age, credit card knowledge and literally financial literacy is, I feel like a lost education. It's like basic fundamentals of finances not being taught in school. And hopefully it's people like me, people like Dr. Brad Klontz, that are creating amazing content to help teach people the right way. The next bullet point is he also built multiple streams of income so he wasn't dependent on one source. Now this is something that I think has truly changed my life and has always made me think, I think, to be entrepreneurial. When I had my $27K per year job, I knew I couldn't make more money. It wasn't a sales job, the bonus was going to be 1% of $27K, which is not a lot. So I knew I had to do something else. So that's when I first started my YouTube channel to try to make money, but it made zero for a couple of years actually. And my online business trying to sell clothing was a complete disaster. But I actually took 2 extra jobs. I taught at a dance studio, and then I also taught at a high school as well, teaching dance. And so basically the $27K a year provided the majority of the income. And I believe I was making like $25 an hour teaching dance at the studio. And then teaching the high school was like a flat rate. I don't want to say it's a stipend, but it's not a lot of money per the time, but it was like $4,000 for the year. So combined with all those, I was actually able to increase my income by like $6,000-$7,000. And that allowed me to basically save more and invest that money. Right away, my parents also taught me to invest as much as I can into retirement. So the 401k at my employer, I was putting enough to get the free match, and I opened up a Roth IRA when I was 21 years old, which I ended up maxing out just a couple years after that again and again until I got to an amazing problem where you make too much money and you can't invest into your Roth IRA. That's actually quite a good problem to have. And when you get to that stage, I hope you do, a ton of different opportunities come up, like investing into cash flow producing real estate, SEP IRAs and brokerage accounts, the list goes on. When I was interviewing with Layla, who's the writer for Business Insider, I got to share a little bit about what it was like dancing for T-Pain, and it is definitely an amazing time of my life that I'll never forget. But T-Pain, I can't imagine if I would have achieved or maybe had the drive that I did without meeting with T-Pain and working for T-Pain, dancing for him, because I just had never knew a multi-millionaire, just extravagant wealth. There was no one in my life growing up that had that I personally knew. So when I got to meet T-Pain, go to his house and see all of his like pimped out cars, it was like it was just like planting this idea in my head that like, here's a man who did this, and if he could do something like this, that means there's abundance of opportunity that I could too. And without singing about strippers and stuff. But he gave me the inspiration that you could actually achieve, you can build something on your own, you can create success on your own. And it wasn't like T-Pain sat me aside and he's like, here's a step-by-step tutorial. It was just by being around him and watching what he had accumulated in his wealth and success that inspired me. So credit cards, making sure you're savvy on that's step number 1, because that's where you can literally just screw up your whole life. 2, and they labeled the headline here, he was always tight with his spending habits. This isn't really the most sexiest financial advice, and I'm sorry to break it to you, but you got to be scrappy. You got to they say when you are starving, you got to eat table scraps until you have, the money to basically buy food, and then you don't need to starve anymore. But at the beginning, we're all starving. It sucks. trying to build wealth from nothing, it's not fun. You can't go out every night. You can't go and buy, ribeye steaks every night. You can't go on vacation when you want to. You have to stay at home. You have to not do things that cost money. You have to save. You have to go and find coupons to go grocery store shopping. Like, these are things that you have to do so you save every single penny that you can. Because when you do that and you build your emergency fund, then you invest that money and that money gets to grow. You get out of the scrappy stage. Today, I actually still live very frugally. I think one day I'll settle down outside the van that I'm living in right now, traveling the country. And I really, started living in a van to travel because of COVID. I didn't do it like, I want to save 98% of my income. That wasn't the game. But it just, is a secondary cause to traveling and being a minimalist, that you save a ridiculous amount of your money because you're not over leveraged on a mansion. You don't have, 7 sports cars. So today I'm still frugal and I'm saving more money than I ever have. When I talk about the call center I worked at, I really hope my message doesn't come across that like, I absolutely hated that job. I mean, I wasn't fulfilled, but something amazing happened at that place. My job was to help people with their retirement. It was a Prudential Retirement was the firm, and I would literally do the customer service for when people called to ask about their 401k and even close out their 401k, or they were at the end of their retirement. And so I got to see, hey, this person has $50,000 in their 401k, or this person has millions of dollars in their 401k. And so there's people who had a lot of money. If I established rapport, I would ask, how did you do it? Were you like the top salesperson? Were you the CEO? Like, how did you do it? Because you're right now, I'm looking at your account. You are success to me. Like, you are what I want to be one day. Most of the people I talk to, believe me or not, did not have high 6-figure incomes. They didn't have 6-figure incomes to begin with, but they all told me the same thing. They saved early and as much as they could, and that accumulated over time. And that's the lesson for number 2. Number 3, and this is also such an important lesson, but also not sexy. When you go on social media, I don't know if it's like my feeds, but I see tons of different ways to get rich quick: cryptocurrency, NFTs. You might even see my stuff that says affiliate marketing, which is a great side hustle, but even my side hustles, none of my side hustles I've ever done were get rich quick. And so once you start taking care of number 1 and number 2, you don't have bad credit card, you're saving money, then it's like, oh my gosh, there's all these missed opportunities. I got to put my money here so it can scale to the moon. I got to day trade. I got to do all these things. But the first thing you should really do is just build an emergency fund, because at the beginning, making your first and saving your first $10,000 is the hardest. And they always say making your first million is the hardest, which is totally true. But the beginning to climb uphill, and when you're just, you don't have a lot of net worth yet, and any expense can kind of throw you back. You're driving probably a beat up car, or you're renting at a place, or you have a place and like the furniture could go out, any one of these things, or a medical expense. And I hope that doesn't happen, but just in case it does, you want to make sure that whatever emergency happens, you don't have to dip into like credit card spendings or bad debt, which is going to set you back. So the first thing you have to do is save an emergency fund. If one thing COVID taught us is that when the traditional advice to save maybe 2 months of an emergency fund, it's just not enough. Like, now we're all expecting something could happen. I truly believe you need to have 6 months. I know that's a lot, but trust me, it's worth it. This money is not meant to grow. It's meant to sit in your bank account just for an emergency. These are 3 serious steps on how I was able to accumulate such a high net worth by 30 and 32 today. But there's 2 more. And I want you to go into the article that Business Insider wrote, which is in the link below, so you can truly understand how I was able to do it. Now, I want to tease out a little bit of information for you. If you just make $100,000 a year since you're 20 to 32 and you save 50% of your income, it's still almost not enough money to become a millionaire. So those are 3 serious tips on how I became a millionaire by 30. There's 2 more amazing tips that I think are super important, but I want you to go into Business Insider's article, which is in the link below, so you can check those out. I have to be honest, if you just did these 3 steps, it wouldn't guarantee that actually you would become a millionaire, because there's one big factor that played a massive role for me was my entrepreneurship adventures. in ventures. Was my entrepreneurship ventures. My businesses that I created allowed me to really scale my income. If you have great financial habits and you get a raise, or you find ways to basically add another revenue stream and you keep being scrappy, it's literally like it's game over. You're going to be able to retire at such an early age. The problem is most people, when they get a raise or a new job promotion, you know what they do? They go and buy a new car, or they get a bigger home. So they just increase their cost of living as they make more money. But if you can like hold off, and for me, I always say I sacrificed my 20s to basically work, hustle, and save and invest as much. Here at 32, I know some people say, Adrian, you're an idiot. The 20s are your best years of your life, man. Dude, nah. I'm sitting here at 32, no regrets. In fact, I have my whole rest of my life to live, knowing that I'll never have to worry about money again. If you like the 3 tips, make sure you go to the Business Insider and check out the last 2 tips, and come back and comment. What did you think of the article? I was super honored and grateful that I could be featured. Layla, if you ever watch this video, just to say thank you again for the interview. Otherwise, I have tons of more financial tips and business info to come on this YouTube channel, so make sure you subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, y'all. Peace and God bless.